Good morning, afternoon, or evening, everyone. My name is Elivaras, and welcome to ranking brawlers from best to worst on Bone Box. If you're like me, you look at a lot of the tier lists being released nowadays, and you see them as kind of underwhelming. The problem I find with a lot of tier lists nowadays is they just kind of give a blanket overall statement that I don't really find that useful. You see maybe Piper at the bottom of the list, and you think, oh, Piper's a terrible brawler, I won't use her. But really, that's not the case. A brawler can excel and do terribly in certain game modes. A brawler can additionally do well or terribly in certain maps within each game mode. So I find overall tier lists not really that useful, and that is why I'm starting a series where we're going to be doing tier lists from best to worst on specific maps, starting with Bone Box. And to help me with this, I want to give a shout out to Gin Tonic, Son Goku, and Maximo, all that I met on the Brawlstars Discord, which you can find a link to on Reddit, on the Brawlstars subreddit. So they are very high trophy players, 7K, 8K, 9.5K, so very well experienced. I used their experience as well as my own thoughts, and we compiled them together into a 1 to 19 ranking for all the brawlers on Bone Box. So the way this is kind of going to work is we're going to have each brawler ranked from 1 to 19, but additionally, we're going to have a brawler listed as lane or center. So a lot of at very high trophy play. So if you're playing on brawlers that are 400 to 500 plus, or maybe 450 to 500 plus, a lot of the strategies you'll see here involve one person going in the center and then two people, one on each lane. And so you have the center applying pressure, picking up the gems, and you've got each laner killing the enemy brawlers on each lane. And typically what you'll see is high DPS brawlers on the right and left lanes, and then you'll have like a survivable support in the center who's going to be the gem carrier. So when we do this tier list, we're going to be breaking it up and saying this brawler should be a laner, this brawler should be a center, or they can work as both. So that's how we're going to structure this. So first, the number one brawler on this map, in our opinion, is Ricochet. Ricochet can play both a laner, and a center, but mainly he's really good at laning. These very confined little lanes, and that's where we're getting laner from, there's very confined lanes on the right and left side of the map. It's very hard for Ricochet to miss. Ricochet especially over Colt, because Ricochet can ricochet, hence his name, his shots across the wall. So it's hard for him to miss. So he can shoot this wall and it'll bounce, and it's hard for an enemy brawler to miss. And if their enemy brawler maybe falls back to here, then he can push forward a little bit, shoot his ricochet, his shots off the walls, hit them, and then if their brawler falls back to here, he can still push forward and shoot back to here. And if he has to fall back, he can fall back to relative safety behind this wall here. But still ricochet shots that still hit enemy brawlers from relative safety. So Ricochet is very, very strong, and he can also rotate over into the center. His ricochets allow him to shoot both lanes from relative safety and still get a lot of damage done. Taking advantage from his star power allows him to do a ton of damage, and Ricochet is just overall a great choice on this map. And second, following not far behind, is Colt. So Colt also takes advantage of these very tight lanes and confined spaces. It makes it hard for him to miss. Both Colt and Ricochet have fast reload speeds, which means they don't have to worry about someone sneaking through these bushes while they're reloading, as they can constantly strafe the bushes. Additionally, Colt can counter Pam by breaking walls to get to her healing turret, so Pam doesn't have as great healing locations. Oftentimes you'll see Pam on this map because there's a lot of great healing turret locations. If you've got a Colt breaking these walls down, she doesn't have as great of a healing turret location. So Colt can do really well at countering Pam. And as with Ricochet, he can play both a lane and a center. Third brawler on this map is Pam. Pam is also very strong, and she's typically the support gem carrier you'll see in the center here. So Pam's got a very high health pool. Her healing turret makes her very survivable, along with, if she has her star power, she's even more survivable and potentially healing up a few of her teammates. So the fact that the center is combined, or not combined, confined means that brawlers have to get in close to Pam where she excels because she's got such a wide spread and there's not much cover, so it's very easy for her to hit her shots. And if someone's coming in, she knows where they have to come in, so she can blanket the area and make sure that she's always hitting shots and pushing them out. She's great at pushing the enemy center back out of the center. The reason she isn't as high or isn't higher than Colt or Rico is because Pam has less carrying potential. So Pam cannot carry a game as a Colt or a Ricochet can because she doesn't have that amount. She doesn't have a very high amount of damage. She can't wipe an enemy team with an epic super like Ricochet can. Or like Colt can. She can't wipe the enemy team and then suddenly, oh, your team's winning now and you're going to pull back to base and take the victory. Pam can't do that. She's a support. She's a great add-on to teams with a lot of DPS and teams that know what they're doing. She's a great support to really carry the team and add that final piece of the puzzle required for victory. So that's why she's lower than Ricochet and Colt. And now, fourth on this list is going to be Crow. And Crow, as with Pam, is going to be center. The reason Crow is in the center is because, just like Pam, he puts out a lot of pressure. He knows where enemy brawlers have to go to get in, and his poison means they constantly have to get out to retreat. And oftentimes they'll have to retreat into the lanes to heal up, which if you've got a Ricochet, if you've got their brawler coming out over here, and maybe a Ricochet here, their Ricochet can often hit that brawler and either kill them or further prevent them from healing up. So Crow just provides so much pressure, it forces people out of the center and makes it easy for him to collect the gems. His fast speed and the amount of bushes in the center also means that once he has control, it's hard to kick him out because you can't just walk in and kill him because you don't know where he is, and it's harder for you to hit your shots on him. So Crow is a very strong center coming in at number 4. And now number 5, Bo. And this is assuming Bo has his star power. Bo is a great center for a few reasons. First of all, Bo can put mines on someone like Pam's turrets. So Pam is, as I said, very common on this map. Bo can throw his mines down, and then when the enemy team goes to get healing, it blows up the wall surrounding Pam's turret, and your team is easier access to the enemy team, and means they don't have great locations for healing anymore. Additionally, with his star power, he can see enemy brawlers hiding in bushes, so you can't have that Shelly. Like, let's say you've only got a Ricochet, or maybe your Colt dies, so you can't have a Shelly coming down here just derping around down here waiting for someone to show up to blammo right in the face, because you've got a Bo with a star power hanging out around here who can see into the bushes. And that means that a lot of those short-range brawlers are much less effective on this map if you have a maxed Bo. And it can really do wonders. It also means that if you're pushing into the center, you can see where maybe their Crow's hiding, you can see where someone's hiding, and you can immediately do damage to them instead of wasting shots or trying to guess or getting surprised and stuff like that. You can't walk in here and they get ambushed by Shelly, etc., etc. So Bo is a very strong choice, and he's a very good center. I would not use him on a lane because he doesn't have enough damage to compete with the likes of Colt and Ricochet, and not enough range either. So he would be a great center. 6th, also in the lane, is Brock. Brock is very strong. He's got a very high amount of damage. With his star power, he puts that little fire on the ground, which covers a decent amount of space in the lane, forcing enemy brawlers to either take that damage or pull back a bit. He's got a decent reload speed, not too slow, so he can still strafe the bushes and make sure like a bull can't sneak up on him while he's firing. And his super is really game-changing. His super can destroy walls, like light up wherever the healing turret is, so that anyone huddled around the healing turret will get blown to smithereens, along with the healing turret and the walls protecting it. So he has a great game-changing super that is really strong. So that's why Bo is number 6, and he's going to be a laner. He's not as strong in the center, mainly because of his long reload speed. So if he's facing someone like a Crow, he's going to be constantly pressured back into his base, and there's not much he can do. So overall, I'd only use him as a lane. He's got that great confined space to really hit his shots. And 7th on this list is Spike, and Spike can play both lane and center. Spike is very strong for a few reasons. First of all, he's got his spike balls, which do a ton of damage, similar to Brock's damage on a direct hit. And he also has a lot of spread, so he can hit people from around corners. Additionally, part of Spike's strength is his super. His super is great for locking down the enemy gem carrier. So if Spike is playing center, he can charge up his super, and then let's say maybe their Pam's coming into the center. She kind of missteps a bit. He can lock her down with his super, keep her in place, healing up in the process, making him more survivable. So Spike's also great because he's survivable with his super. His super makes him versatile. But he can throw his super down on maybe the enemy gem carrier, if that's Pam or Poco or whoever. Throw it down. He's getting healing in the process, so it's unlikely he's going to die. And then he can call his laners in, and his laners come in and completely destroy the gem carrier, picks up the gems, and books it back to base. So Spike is great in the center. He's decent in the lanes, but can struggle against the likes of Colt and Ricochet, as he just doesn't have a super high amount of range. But if he can dodge shots pretty well and get close, he can do a ton of damage with his spikes and prevent them from healing with the little spread that his cacti provide upon impact. So number 8 is Barley, and Barley is going to be playing in the center. So one of the reasons Barley's so great in the center is because there's lots of walls. So there's lots of walls, there's lots of choke points, and the lanes are relatively confined too. So this means there's predictable pathing for the enemy brawlers. If they're coming down the lane, they can't do much juking. They just got to come down the lane. If they're coming in the center, there's a central choke. Coming in the side, central chokes. So Barley can utilize this predictable pathing to block off zones. So he sees the enemy brawler maybe coming from spawn, their gem carrier. He just throws some down here and prevents that gem carrier from getting into the center, lest they take a lot of damage. So he's great for his zone control and the amount of damage he can put out due to the predictable pathing and confined spaces. He's also great at clearing stuff like Pam turrets. So, you know, Pam's got her turret hiding back here. He can push forward a bit, maybe throw 3 bottles down, clear the turret, done. So Barley is quite a strong center. He's not that good as a laner. He doesn't have enough health. He doesn't have enough range, and his bottles fly too slowly, so they're easier to dodge. So he'd do really poorly against someone like a Ricochet or a Colt. So moving on to number 9 is Tara, and Tara would be used in the center mainly. So Tara is strong in the center also because of her super. It's basically like Spike. So gets the super charged up. She can call her laners in, throw that super down, pull the enemy gem carrier in, doing a ton of damage with her shotgun-like cards spread in the process, and then have her laners come in and finish the kill and run off with all the gems. So she's very strong in the center. Her super makes her super, super strong at locking down the enemy gem carriers and maybe locking down laners that are running away. And as I kind of forgot to mention with Barley, Barley and Spike. Barley, Spike, and Tera are great also in the center because it's very easy for them to help out the lanes. They can just come out, pop over, throw a few shots down, and come back in. Barley especially can throw over the walls and maybe interrupt someone who's healing. So Tara, pretty strong in the center. Wouldn't use her in the lane for the same reasons as Barley. Not enough health, not enough range. And her cards don't fly too slowly, but it's just not enough damage. Her super isn't a damage dealer that can really wipe the enemy laner. If it's like a Ricochet, they're standing so far back that you just can't get in range to make use of your super. So I'd only really use her in the center. So number 10, and this came from some of my very high trophy friends, mainly Gin Tonic at about 9.5k. He says number 10 should be Bull, and this is the reason. He says there's a strategy that is often used. I don't play Bull much. I don't have a high rank Bull, so I wouldn't know this. I specialize in long-range brawlers like Ricochet, Piper, Brock, etc. But this is coming from him. You can use a strategy where you pull Bull into the center and act as like a second center. So you'd have, your traditional center like Pam, but maybe you'd have a Bull who would come into the center, and you wouldn't have a right lane. The fact that the center is so confined means that you force the enemy laner to come in to do some damage, and Bull can pop out of these bushes and kill that enemy laner as they're coming in. He's got so much health, he's got so much DPS, there's bushes and cover to hide behind. This is quite strong, and additionally, his super is useful because he can both get to wherever the gem carrier is, and he can break walls. So, Bull can really just, like, come up here, like, maybe he's in the center for a while. Maybe him in the center kill the right laner who's coming in. He pulls out, and then he stands over here and wipes away all these walls and basically prevents Pam from having good locations for her healing turret. So Bull can be quite strong, although there is a little disclaimer here. So this has to do with Shelly, Primo, Daryl, and Bull. They are all not very good if you are facing an enemy bow. When you're facing an enemy bow, a maxed enemy bow. So they've got their star power. They can see very far in the bushes. And so they're not as useful because they can't launch as many surprise attacks when the bow's around because everyone on the enemy team can see where they are. So they're all not as effective, especially not in the lanes. If you were going to use them in the lanes, maybe you could if you weren't going up against Colt or Rico, or if you're really good at juking and the Colt or Rico aren't aiming very well. But if they've got a bow, don't even bother because it's likely you won't be able to surprise attack anyone. So number 11, and that's going to be Poco. So Poco would only be played in the center. He doesn't have enough range, doesn't have enough health, and doesn't have enough damage to play in the lane. So he'd be playing in the center. He's a great gem carrier. His heal can go over walls, so he can heal a laner who's taken a little bit too much damage. He can heal himself. His heal can really be game-changing when maybe a Primo supers in, thinking he's going to finish the kill, or Rico throws his ult down, thinking he's going to finish the kill, but no, suddenly they get healed out of nowhere. And then that can be really game-changing. So Poco can be quite strong, decent amount of health. His heal makes him survivable, and because the space is so confined in the center, it's not very hard for him to hit his shots. The enemy brawler has to get in here to get gems, so Poco is pretty good at hitting his shots when the enemy brawler is in a confined space like this. Additionally, he can pop out, help the laners for a bit. His spread goes quite far, so he can maybe pop out on the right and spread down all the way to here, do a little bit of damage. If he has a star power, he can heal up his teammates a little bit, and then he can heal. He's very sustainable because he can heal whenever necessary. So that's Poco for number 11, only play him in the center. Dynamite coming in at number 12, and he would only be used in the center, much like Barley. So basically, just go look at all the reasons I said. Barley was great, but Dynamite isn't as great because he doesn't have as much area denial. So Dynamite's spread shots don't stay on the ground for very long, right? It's just an explosion, and then they're gone. So he can't keep a lot of these, he can't control these chokes as well as Barley can, and additionally his super destroys walls, so the chokes won't be around as long if you do have a Dynamite in the center, because he'll maybe blow these walls open and then there's no chokes for him to utilize anymore. So Dynamite just isn't as strong as Barley, and that's why he's at number 12, but he's not lower on the list because he brings a lot of the same benefits that Barley does, like clearing Pam turrets and being able to utilize predictable enemy pathing and stuff of the like. So next, coming in at number 13 is Nita. And Nita would be played in the center. Same reasons why she wouldn't be played in the lane as Tara, Barley, Spike. Doesn't have enough health, doesn't have enough damage, doesn't have enough range to be playing in the sides. So Nita can be pretty strong in the center. She's got a pretty fast reload. She can shoot around walls pretty well, so she can help laners. And she can put out a decent amount of pressure, especially if she's got that bear out. A lot of the time, the brawlers you're facing in the center are stuff like Pam or Crow. They don't put out a ton of damage very quickly. They rely on constant damage. If you get your bear out, it's hard for them to kill the bear, so then they have to fall back, which means you've got a great time to go help out your laners, maybe secure a few kills, or just stay in the center and collect some gems and establish some dominance. Additionally, if you've got your star power, you can heal your bear up a bit, make it even harder for those other standard centers to kill your bear. So Nita can be quite strong in some situations. So that's why she's number 13. Number 14, Jessie. Jessie should, again, only be used in the center. She just doesn't have enough damage. Her range is decent, but she just doesn't have enough damage to stay in the outer lanes. And not many good turret locations in the outer lanes either. So she's really good in the center because there are great turret locations just like Pam. If the enemy has a lot of long-range brawlers and no throwers, what you can do is like maybe a Crow Rico Barley, or not a Crow Rico Barley, a Crow Rico Colt, then you can have the turret down maybe in these corners here, making it hard for them to kill it, and makes it hard for Crow to get in the center because Crow's going to have a very hard time taking out a turret with his relatively low health. And then if they have stuff like Bull, a Primo, or a Daryl, you can place it down here, so it's hard for them to get to it, and it can still put out a ton of pressure in the center. The confined space makes it easier for the turret to hit and makes it easier for Jessie to hit, and it also means that If you've got multiple enemy brawlers coming into here, she can get some great bounce shots that kind of travel from one brawler to the next, her little electric mean attack. So Barley is number 14 on this list. Number 15 is Piper, and Piper should really only be played in a lane. She's kind of good for the same reasons as Brock, but she's lower for a few reasons. First of all, slow reload. So she can't really constantly be strafing these bushes because she's got a 3-second reload. So she's got to shoot all the way down this bush, and then you got to wait 3 seconds. And then you can shoot again, and you're wasting a lot of ammo and a lot of time because you have to spend so much time strafing these bushes because you don't want, like, a Brock sneaking down here, maybe a Bull sneaking down here and coming out and killing you. So you've got to constantly strafe the bushes. If you're facing someone like a Rico or a Brock, it's likely you can't see them very well. They've got good cover to fire behind. They've got good pressure. But the main reason is because she doesn't have a game-changing or I guess super such as Brock. She can clear walls, but you've got to get really close. It's not a damage-dealing super. She can't do any game-changing moves with her super like Brock can. So that's why she's much lower on the list than Brock is. And additionally, her long reload and the amount of bushes and cover on this map means you're likely getting less shots and less value for having a Piper on your team. So that's why she's number 15. Number 16 is Shelly. So Shelly can be played on a lane. However, if there is a bow with their star power, she does have to rotate center, and that's going to go for the same for El Primo and Daryl, which are going to follow Shelly shortly. So Shelly can be strong in the lane if she's good at juking. You can get kind of close to those Ricos or Colts and maybe blow them up. If they don't have a bow, if you kill your laner with maybe your center comes and helps you, you kill a laner, you come over here, maybe hide here, blow someone up who's over here, who's coming out of spawn, just beat the snot out of them, blow them up when they're least expecting it. So she can be very strong, provided they don't have a max bow. However, you do have to either be very good at dodging or your opponent has to be very bad at shooting because it's really hard for you to get close in such a confined space, especially against someone like a Rico. And this is why number 17 is El Primo and number 18 is Daryl. They just have such a hard time getting down the lane and getting those shots in. So they can kind of play center, but the problem is generally they have a pretty short range, so they can get pushed out pretty easily by someone like a Crow. Even a Pam, right? A Pam can call in maybe their laner to get a few shots in, but they can relatively just sit back and deal a decent amount of damage from range, and they just don't have the range to really contest that. So that's why we've got Shelly, Primo, and Daryl at the bottom of the list. Because Colt and Ricochet are so strong, such high damage dealers, confined spaces. And they just can't really do very well because it's hard for them to get up close against someone like a Colt or a Rico. So in some situations they can do well. Like, for example, you have the Bull that kind of pulls into the center, force one of their laners in. So in some situations, yes, they can do well, but overall they're just not that strong on this map. Especially if an enemy bow is a star power, then they're even worse off. So, overall, I'm not a huge fan of tanks on this map, and mainly because of the whole Colt and Ricochet being so strong, it's very hard for them to get anything done. And the reason El Primo and the reason Bull's so high is because Bull has such high... Like, Bull is very much a absolute cannon. So if he gets close, he can wipe people so quickly, and he's got such a high health pool. Primo suffers from not being able to wipe people quickly enough, so someone like a Colt or a Ricochet, even if he gets close to them, can do a ton of damage to him and maybe kill him. And a Shelly just doesn't have as much health, so El Primo suffers from not having as much damage. Shelly suffers from not having as much health, so they won't do as well in the center, and they're not as good for getting to the gem carrier like Bull can. They can clear the walls, yes, but they can't get to the gem carrier. Daryl has the problem of he can't really get to the gem carrier with his super either because it travels so far and he bounces off walls, so it's very hard to get a clear path right to the gem carrier. So Daryl not as strong either here. So last on this list, coming in at number 19, is going to be Mortis. For your average player, Mortis is just not very strong here. The confined spaces makes it very hard to get anything done, makes it very hard to dodge. A Colt or Rico can really lay down pressure. Someone like a Barley can really keep him out very well. So you've got Pams and Crows in the center who do great against Mortis, really good at keeping him out. Healing turrets are really bad for Mortis to deal with. And just Mortis overall cannot do very well in this map. A very skilled Mortis player can do well if he's very good at juking and dodging. He can maybe get close to the enemy Colt or Ricochet. So yeah, basically it requires a very skilled Mortis to do even decently on this map, and even then it's hard for Mortis to get much done because of the confined spaces. So yeah, that's going to wrap it up for this tier list. I would like to thank again Gintonic, Son Goku, and Maximo for helping me out with this tier list. I hope you guys enjoyed and learned a little bit about all of the brawlers and the map in general and strategies that people use on this map. So I hope you all enjoyed. If you like my content and would like to see more, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. If you've got any feedback, good or bad, it is appreciated. Like it if you like it, dislike it if you dislike it. It's all up to you guys. So that's going to wrap it up for this episode, and we'll have another one coming, hopefully in not too long. So I would like to thank you all for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Cheers, guys.